Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to the round 2 of the Sharjah Masters in 2023 that's going on now in the United Arab Emirates. We're following now the spectacular Indian chess prodigy derby between Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa and Raunak Sadhwani. So I think this game is very important for both of them because in these types of games but also in these types of tournaments you can gain many rating points because here the top grandmasters like Magnus, Nepo, Giri, Hikaru are not playing. So basically their ratings are pretty much equal. So if you win one game in these types of battles, you can gain many rating points. So I think very important tournament for all of them because here also Arjun Ergaisi is playing, Gukesh is playing, Hans is also a talented player. So many of these players I think want to have a great result here, maybe gain 20-30 points even in these types of events. So let's see now what happened between the two top prodigies from India. Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa with the white pieces open with the move e4. We have now the move e5 by Raunak, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5. The Rui Lopez, the Spanish game, is on the board. a6 Murphy defense, bishop to a4, and now after move knight to f6. One of the most popular line now these days is now the so-called delayed exchange variation after move kingside casting, bishop to e7, and now finally Praggnanandhaa took now the knight on c6. So after move d takes c6, which is a pretty standard idea here, we are taking away from the center. Usually you're taking towards the center, but now the d file is open in some lines. c5 will happen, and then from black's perspective, with the support of the e5 pawn, with the support of the c5 pawn, you are targeting the weak d4 square in white position. So in the game d3 by Pragu, Raunak continues with knight to d7, controls the e5 pawn. We have now bishop to e3, kingside casting, and now knight to d2. Of course, a preparation to hop with the knight on c4 and continue the pressure around the square e5. c5. So you see Raunak continues with this plan. c5, then in some lines even to reroute the knight, knight to b8, knight to c6, and then, as we said in the beginning, targeting the weak d4 square in white's camp. So knight to c4, hitting the pawn, f6, you have to protect it, and now knight to h4. Here by Pragu, he noticed, of course, the weakness in black's camp. It's now also the weak f5 square. So both players I think are having here structural weaknesses, black f5, but also white here, the d4 square. So in the game, knight to b8, beautiful move by Raunak. It is strange to basically place your knight on almost the starting square because of course the knight was rerouted here from g8, f6, d7, b8, but in my opinion this is the way to go. You have to simply battle now for the weakness on d4. So in the game, Pragu occupies this weakness. We have now knight to c6 by Raunak, and now queen to g4, already a tricky move here by Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa, threatening the checkmate here on g7. So that's why bishop to f5 has to be played. For instance, if you play g6 here in order to keep the tension somehow, it wouldn't be so good because then the queen drops back. You have to step back to h8, and now after knight to e7, queen to e7, even f4 is here possibility. I think from this point on, it becomes really a bad game for black. We will eventually maybe even take out. Rook is a little bit loose here. Weak pawn on c7, weak pawn on c5. So that's why it was the correct choice, I think, here by Raunak to simply get rid of this annoying knight on f5. So we have e takes f5. Interesting choice also by Pragu to recapture here with the pawn, but this pawn is an annoying one, creates now also space advantage for white. Look at this, the pawn is already on the 5th rank, and in some lines, maybe, if possible, I'm not saying it's possible immediately, but an interesting idea would be f4, rook to f3, rook to g3, maybe include also further pieces into the attack. Bishop to h6 is always a threat, continuing the pressure here against the weak pawn on g7. So many attacking opportunities, I think, here come to my mind from white's perspective. So in the game, Raunak kicks away this knight to d2 with the preparation to hop with the knight on e4, and now Raunak makes, I think, his first really little inaccuracy here in the game. He plays now the move knight to d4. And okay, you have prepared your whole concept, your whole strategy was to battle for the d4 square, but it was a little bit too rushed. I think Raunak underestimated here Pragu's advantages in the position, especially on the king side. Of course, Praggnanandhaa has here attacking chances. So here a better idea was to first of all get rid of this pawn on f5 somehow, or at least battle against it, maybe first, as I said, try to defend this position, because after move queen to d7, you can maybe play the move knight to e4. But now look at this. Now, when the knight comes on d4, we are threatening to take it, and now it could be a good game because white would be forced basically to give up the bishop for a knight. And now, after move c takes d4, here, black, I think, would improve the pawn structures. Suddenly, the pawns are not doubled anymore on the c file, and now in some lines, maybe we can play queen to c6, hit the pawn on c2, or we can play maybe even c5, c4, breaking and entering here on the queen side. So it would be very interesting to watch now this game in this particular position. But Raunak rushed here simply. With this choice, with this aggressive method. Of course, he is attacking now the pawn on c2, but now look how Pragu is playing the game. Beautiful, beautiful move here by Pragu. He plays now the move c3. Forces now the knight to drop back. Now Raunak plays the aggressive knight to c2, but now comes bishop to h6, and we have already a checkmate threat on g7. So pretty much black is forced to play here the move rook to f7. We have now rook from a to c1, and look at this, what happens if you play now queen to d3. This wasn't Raunak's continuation, but Pragu prepared here really a dirty idea. Look at this. After queen to d3, knight to e4, the queen is still connected to the knight. The knight doesn't have good squares to escape, so you will eventually lose the knight. If you drop back, of course, with the queen, then the knight is lost. If you play something like king to h8, then rook from f to d1 is simply winning in material. Will simply pick up the queen, and the game is over here for black. Really stunning idea here by Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa, leaving the d3 pawn unprotected, but basically threatening to trap the queen. So that's why Raunak dropped back here with the king on h8. Now the threat is, of course, g takes h6, but now we have knight to e4 anyway, g takes h6, and now after rook to c2, we have a king to rook to g7 and queen to f3. We have reached now a middle game / end game, sort of, in which white has the knight and black has the bishop. But I think the knight is much better in this type of position, because notice 5 pawns of blacks are on dark squares, which are really paralyzing the bishop's activity. The bishop is almost like a big pawn here. The bishop doesn't have activities at all. And on the other hand, I think the knight in a flexible position like this will always find its way into the game. So I think from this point on, the game is becoming a one-way ticket. A good game here for white, because as I said, the white is more flexible. So the white knight, I think, has at least some kind of a chance in the game. The dark square bishop is simply paralyzed. It's simply out of game for sure. So really beautiful here idea by Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa. He forced the tactical sequence just in order to reach this position. Really great standard, great strategy here by Pragu. So queen to g8, hitting the pawn on g2. We have b3, controlling c4. In order to make something happen, maybe c4 is the only way here for black. So that's why Pragu prevented c4 with the move b3. We have rook to d8, targeting the d3 weakness. But now g3, good move also by Pragu, because in some of these lines maybe there was a tactic of rook to d3, deflecting the queen to d3, and then maybe rook to g2. But still, it's of course not checkmate. We can drop back to h1, but probably Pragu didn't want to rush here. Probably didn't want to have this dependency of the queen like this. The queen would be a little bit overloaded to both sides. So that's why good choice here, I think, by Pragu with move g3. Queen to f7, rook to d1. We have rook to d7. Here, h5 was maybe the only chance now, the last chance here for Raunak to spice up the game somehow. h5, h4, trying somehow to open the g file maybe, but still look at this. The bishop is still paralyzed by its own pawn, so although you could maybe play like this, still white should be much better here. So after move rook to d7, Praggnanandhaa breaks and enters here with the move c4. We have now the move b4, and in my opinion, now comes a brilliant move here by Pragu. And maybe you can pause the video, try to see now the winning continuation, or maybe it's not the winning continuation, it's, I think, a good continuation here for white. But I think also that's the only way to spice up the game further. Pause the video and try to see now really a good move here for white. Pragu saw that, of course, immediately. Brilliant choice it was. Okay, here the good move is a3, and there is a certain rule in chess that says when you have your pieces on basically the most optimal squares, then the next best move is probably a pawn move. A3 is simply opening out the position because probably in the center nothing will happen. On the king side, we don't want to push here because we don't want to expose our kings. So that's why with the move A3 now here Praggnanandhaa rerouted the whole game towards the queen side, where basically Raunak has left with all of his pieces. Now Pragg will notice there could be maybe attacking chance on the A file, and A3 is opening the position. A really beautiful positional move. A5, A takes B4, A takes B4, rook to A2. Now look at this. It's very easy for Pragg to continue here. Of course there is the pressure, but now rook to A8, not allowing rook to D3 because queen to D3 is going to happen. You cannot take because of the activity. So good choice here by Pragg. Rook to A8, we have queen to E8, rook takes D8, we have rook takes D8, and now this rook comes on a beautiful square, attacks also the pawn on F6. We have now the move C6, queen to E3, good choice here again by Pragg, attacking both of these weaknesses, and now queen to H5 here by Raunak, but still it's not working. Maybe a better choice was queen to F8, but still, look at this, rook to A7 is going to happen. The bishop is a little bit loose here. The queen is again overloaded to both sides here, to the pawn on H6, to the bishop on E7. Maybe you can play king to H8, look at this, H4, we can play H5, queen to F3, queen to G4. So in my opinion, it's simply a bad game here for black anyway. So, but okay, after move queen to A3, queen to H5 was played. Now we have knight to C5, queen to F5, rook to C6 here by Pragg, H5 by Raunak, and now knight to E6, a beautiful move. And after move rook to A8, now Ramesh Bambu Praggnanandhaa played a brilliant move. Maybe you can again pause the video and try to see now the winning move after this move. Raunak Sadhwani immediately resigned. It was a brilliant tactical shot. So take your time, pause the video, and see this beautiful tactic. Okay, here Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa played a brilliant queen to A7. Sacrifice the queen. If you take, of course, a rook to A7, then you get checkmated. You can just bring maybe some pieces in between, but it's a checkmate because the king doesn't have escape. Rook to the square G7. After move queen to A7, if you play rook to E8 to connect your rook towards the queen, towards the bishop, then queen to E7, rook to E7, and now rook to C8 is working. Look at this. The knight is standing in between, so rook to C8 is a possibility. Again, you can just bring the rook in between, and after rook to E8, it would be a beautiful checkmate here by white. So as we said, after move rook to A7, Raunak Sadhwani resigned. So great game by Pragg. He has now 2 points out of the first 2 games, and as I said in the beginning, one of the most important things about this chess event, I think, is the rating progress. Look how dramatically these ratings are changing. This is now the juniors chess rating list. Here Alireza Firouzja is still the best junior in the world. Gukesh is very strong. Look at this, 2,733 points. Nodirbek Abdul Satorov also, look at this, just 1 point behind the Gukesh. But now Praggnanandhaa, I think, in this event has the chance to break and enter. He can get his 2,700 rating mark for sure. I think he'll get it for sure in this event. He will win games for sure. He'll draw probably a couple of games, but this could be his events where he could maybe gain 20-30 points, maybe even. So we'll follow his career for sure. Beautiful game it was, but also a beautiful rating progress here by the top prodigy Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. Really interesting ideas of the Rui Lopez delayed exchange variation. If you want to see also our previous game from this event, check out our last game. It was a beautiful, sharp tactical game by Hans Niemann. Please check it out. Incredible tactics that Hans-Moki Niemann pulled off here. So we'll follow this event in the next couple of days. I think it's a brilliant tournament. Many great players we have here, especially young players who can make an impact in the next couple of years. So pay good attention. This will be an epic chess event for us to follow. So here's the link of the Hans-Moki Niemann game. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say. Chess is the best, of course.